Well, good evening, good night, good morning, whenever your people are going to watch this in the future. Welcome to another episode of the Game Table Cafe's Table Talk. I'm your host tonight, Victor, and I'm here with two gentlemen that are ready to talk some board games and maybe some other stuff tonight. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Let's see. My screen and the live stream's different, so I'm going to go with... And I know this is not going to make sense unless you're watching a live stream. I'm going to go with up here for me, and that should be... I'm like rewatching this here. Jeff? Let's go with Jeff.
Yeah. All right. Hi.
Nope, I pointed the wrong one, but Jeff, you go ahead. I don't know.
All right, sounds good. All right. Hi, I'm Jeff Erickson. I'm a software engineer. I work for a satellite company out in Colorado, but I do remote work, so I'm here in Pennsylvania. Let's see. You want me to go through some of these little intro bullet points, or
let's just. I think that's a good start to it.
All right, sounds good.
Software engineer, as in what do you work with?
I do a lot of API design. Right now, I'm doing more architecture and design kind of work, but I do also lead a team of more mid-level and junior developers as well. So I'm doing a lot of coaching and stuff like that too, as sort of bringing up some of these developers along the way.
We'll get nerd right into it. What languages are you working with?
So most of what I've done, I actually cut my teeth on Perl way back, Perl CGI back in the early days of the web, but did a lot of work in Java for a number of years. And now we're doing a lot of Python, especially since we're working in AI, ML kind of pipelines and things like that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so we're a GIS company, so we do a lot of sort of engineering along those lines.
Oh, cool.
GIS, Geographic Information Systems.
All right, John, what do you got?
I'm a self-employed web designer, mobile app designer. Self-employed. But fun fact is, at 4:00 in the morning every day, I greet airplanes at the airport for FedEx.
Explain more.
Well, so self-employed means health insurance is really expensive, like $2,600 a month. And getting up early in the morning for a couple of hours to greet some airplanes gets me free health insurance for my
gotcha.
So the things you do to be self-employed.
And what languages do you know then?
Well, I mean, I go back as far as Fortran 77.
Dang.
But currently, the world that I live in is either, on the web, it's just PHP, MySQL still. But we're doing a fun project for the state where we are running Python in a .NET environment. So that's kind of fun.
Okay. If you guys didn't know, I work for the government doing web development too. Okay. So most of my stuff is mostly front-end stuff. So I live in a world of JavaScript, but since it's also the government, we love Microsoft. So it's .NET and SQL. So a lot of using a lot of C#.
Nice.
But well, now you know why we're running Python in .NET. For the state.
It tell you, it is funny, like trying to when you of course constantly have Stack Overflow open on your browser and you're trying to search for some issue and people are like, well, just do this or use this. And I'm like, nope, I work for the government. So I can't just easily do what people can do. It's a lot of security stuff. So
we weren't allowed to use Google Maps.
That's amazing.
Well, the latest one for me, I've had to go multiple months without browser developer tools. I'm
doing web front ends.
Yeah, I'm doing front end stuff and I can't use developer tools. That's a whole nother thing in itself right there. All right, we'll leave off the nerd level of programming for
Like
this.
turn
And,
people off.
all right, they're like, wait a minute, what did I tune into?
It's supposed to be board games.
It is funny how many people though are in tech that play board games.
I mean, that's kind of one of the things I like to find out what people do for a living, because I'm kind of curious about that. And yeah, you get a lot of, tech nerds that are in board gaming. So, well, I did. If anybody out there has watched one of these before and doesn't know, I do send the guests a little questionnaire sheet, so they kind of have an idea of some questions I will be asking them. So as Jeff alluded to, I have on my list here, I like to find out too, if you guys consider yourselves introverts or extroverts. Why don't you go first, Jeff?
All right. So I'm definitely an introvert by most measures of personality scores and things like that. However, I'm not a shy introvert, and I tend to be expressive as well. So really, for me, it's a matter of needing that downtime once if I've been around, like at a gaming convention or a meetup or something like that. I like to go home and kind of unwind by myself a little bit there.
All right.
And if anybody ever wants to talk personality with me and talk about differences between introversion and extroversion and shyness and all of that kind of stuff, I'd happily talk about that with anybody. It's one of my things in my background.
Okay. How about you, John?
I'm what you call an outgoing introvert, which is I think what Jeff described. Yeah.
Okay.
Not being afraid of people or anything like that. But my first trip to Gen Con, I drove out, and every day, at least twice a day, I had to go out into my truck and just be away from Gen Con.
Huh. Not to keep derailing us away from board games, but I'm kind of curious then, with our current world that we're in, with, the COVID-19 and everything, how, it's interesting, like I have my own world that I'm in, right? My own issues day to day that are going on, but then trying to talk with other people about how they're handling this. How is this social distancing and all that stuff for an introvert? Like multiple months of this. Like, I feel like, are you like, oh, this is nothing, I can handle this?
It's kind of like vacation.
Yeah. This is my life every day. I work out of my house for this company out in Colorado anyway. So a lot of what I do is remote. Biggest change for us has been, the kids not having the social interactions in school and stuff like that. So trying to make sure that we're spending some good time with them. But otherwise, I was built for this.
Yeah. The worst part of quarantine, I think, is not being alone at home to do my work. Other people here.
Gosh, actually, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, on a flip side, if you see people posting on social media and grumbling about this, then they might be extroverts, because this has been it's like torture. And as an extrovert, you kind of recharge yourself with other people. And so not getting that, it's like I feel like I'm constantly just kind of drained.
Yeah.
Doing these interviews once a week it's not the same, right? But it gives me at least a little something. But
yeah.
So I know there's a lot of stuff being posted out there, both sides, this whole world that we're in about suck it up and deal with it, and others grumbling. And I'm like, I feel like that's a lot of introvert extroverts talking.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, let's switch it back to gaming, right? John, give us a brief history for your board gaming past.
Well, I've been playing games really forever. We had the kind of family where family events always seemed to get a deck of cards out, and pinochle, bridge, canasta, or Yahtzee. I mean, that's just how our grandparents, aunts, uncles, whenever they would get together, that's just what I've always known. In middle school, we had the board game club, and our world cultures teacher taught us a lot of the Avalon Hill games, 3M games, those kind of games. So I got into strategy gaming, and then of course went into Dungeons and Dragons and the Warhammer world because, you know, teenage boy, testosterone, all that fun stuff. But the real kicker that got me like at a table was my neighbor and I bought Magic the Gathering like the day it came out. And of course we were stupid and bought that collector's edition that wasn't good for anything, but it's kind of worth money now. But anyways, and we thought you would just make decks out of one, you know, because it was like day one. Nobody really knew what this thing was. But that became a decade of my life on Magic the Gathering.
Are you talking alpha?
Like alpha, yeah.
Alpha? And let me guess.
Comic Store West.
Do you still have any of those cards?
No. The best I have is that my third down in line child's name is Jet, and my baby shower gift from my friend who owned a comic store was a Mox Jet.
Nice.
And nice. So that I don't even own it anymore. It's his. So he owns it, but I've been in and out of Magic the Gathering more times than my wallet would like to admit.
You never get out. You're never fully out.
No, and I'm actually that Mac there is going to be a Windows machine so that I can play Magic Arena.
Wow. I got like somewhere down on my bottom row here, I still got like my decks from a couple of years ago or so where I'm like, all right, this time around, I'm not going to sell them. I'm just going to put them aside until that next time I need my fix again.
Nice.
Yeah, I just stick to draft now to keep the wanting to collect a thing. And then I guess after Magic, the big, like, I want to play Euro games when I got Agricola.
Oh, cool. Okay. Now, how did you kind of, like, how do you stumble into like Agricola? Like,
well, I mean, I had played, I had German games and things like that, but Agricola was that first Euro that I said, wow, this stuff is awesome.
Cool. Nice. So Jeff, what's your gaming history then?
Well, kind of similar. I grew up in a family where we played games all the time. At New Year's Day, the guys would get together and all day play Risk, stuff like that. So the games that I knew were things like Risk, Phase 10, and all that kind of stuff. I played, my Magic the Gathering story. I played Magic the Gathering for 2 weeks in 1999, and then I quit. So it is possible to get out.
Well, you weren't really in that, right?
I wasn't really
like you weren't in yet.
No, I was not. No, but then before second or third edition, I can't remember which, Settlers of Catan, I didn't realize modern board gaming actually existed. And then my parents-in-law had some friends who were German and were telling them about this game. They thought I would love it, and ended up getting it for me for Christmas or my birthday or something like that. And I was hooked. And then discovered some friends of mine, and these are now very gateway games, but some friends of mine had discovered around the same time Carcassonne, and they had all these expansions and things for it. So we were all couples at that point, and there were, I think, three couples who would get together, and we'd play Carcassonne with all the expansions mixed in until 2:30 in the morning on Friday nights, things like that. Cool. And then so I was into games. I was always playing games at that point, but then I discovered Cosmic Encounter, and that was it for me. At that point, it became a hobby.
Nice.
And it has grown.
All right, that's cool. That's some nice progressions from it. Sometimes I hear people like, I mean, everybody's kind of got those like card games when you're growing up, right? Like the kind of classic stuff. But usually a lot of times then people like, I feel like they kind of just go away from games and then it's brought on to them all of a sudden, right? Like they don't know about anything and then they kind of fall into it. Or Magic the Gathering. Like that just kind of like, oh yeah, Canasta, Phase 10, and then of course Magic. Oh well, right, okay. I got in around 4th edition, and boy, there's this like, Captain Hindsight about it. Boy, I wish I could have convinced my dad back and then to like buy that really expensive $350 Black Lotus. Like,
Yeah.
and it's the Black Lotus sells like what, they sold for like $1 million now or something.
Wow.
It's insane.
I've got a funny 4th edition story. I was out at the time. I had sold my collection, and I got a job at a video game company down in Falls Church, close, DC. And the CEO of the company, when I come on board, he was talking to me, and somehow Magic the Gathering came up, and he goes, "Oh, by the way, I got this box of cards," and it was a sealed box of 4th edition. He was like, "Hey, you want it?" I was like, "Sure, we can take it back." And I lived with my high school best friend at the time. And I said, "We can take it back to the townhouse and, crack open packs and play."
Right.
That was like giving an addict some,
Right.
a box of 4th edition, and I was in again. And living in DC where I could play a sanctioned tournament every day of the week.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool. But that was a restart.
Nice. Yeah, I got out. I was in for a couple of years. I think like right before I got in at 4th edition, and I got out like right before 5th edition, and like got in. I think I was more into computer games, and then it was like, I don't know. It's like years and years later, 7th or 8th edition, and I kind of found friends to get back into it, and I was like, wow, just like I was blown away by just how much had come out since then. I was like, well, now I'm back in it.
It is an amazing game.
I feel like with my son, I got a little bit more of that fix again because I started buying Pokemon cards, and I was never like in the Pokemon or anything like that. And so now, like with him, I've started buying stuff, and he's at an age he doesn't really fully understand the grasps of the game. Mm-hmm. I'm the one cracking the packs, looking for the rare card, hand him the rest.
Yep.
In there.
I have all my kids' rares sitting on my dresser so they don't wreck them.
Right. Sure. Like you'll get these someday later when you're older.
Yep.
Well, what part of the gaming hobby kind of keeps you guys coming back to it? Like you guys, you say you are introverts, but I mean, obviously kind of gaming is a big social part of this too. So is it the social aspect? Is it the strategy? What brings you back, Jeff, to the table?
Yeah. So for me, I like to describe it to my friends who are not gamers, because they say, well, if you're an adult, why do you play games? For me, it's a matter of shared attention space. I like they're fun, obviously. I love the challenge. I love the exercise of the brain and trying to figure out the right strategy and all that kind of stuff, really, really getting in there. But for me, as much as I enjoy solo gaming, it's one of my favorite things to do while my wife's watching TV. But for me, getting around with other people and having that, as an introvert, that shared attention space, where you're manipulating the same sort of domain together, it's fascinating to me. And to watch the interactions and watch interactions come alive there on the table in an environment that somebody else has engineered is to me, there's nothing like it. So that for me is, as an introvert, not having to make small talk, and yet still having that shared space with somebody makes things just a lot better. Yeah.
That's interesting how you the way that you word about like not having to make small talk with it. I've talked to some other friends lately, them being introverts, and they said like gaming is a good excuse to be social, right? And that's kind of an interesting. Me as an extrovert, I'm like, I guess more at the table. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, it's more to me about the social dynamic, and we also are gaming, right, at the same time.
So that said, some of my favorite games are like Cosmic Encounter or negotiation games or things like that. So there's almost that constructed relationship in the games. I think that, and out of that, sort of real world, if we want to call it that, real world relationships can be built. Like John and I, John Webster here, and I met through gaming. We had a mutual friend. We got together for a Star Wars game night. I think it was X-Wing the first time we started playing together. And that sort of bloomed into something else that we're good friends now. And I can tell a number of other stories along those lines where starting with that shared attention sort of developed into something else where we really knew each other as people. So again, having that sort of shared attention space makes it a lot easier to form sort of that constructed relationship in the game world that then can move out into sort of, again, that real world relationship. So I think for somebody, particularly a shy introvert, John and I aren't necessarily that, but for a shy introvert, that gives them sort of a foundation for building some of those social interactions.
Cool. Now you mentioned solo gaming. Are you type of like solo gaming where I feel like there's like a solo gaming maybe where you have like a port of a game to your phone or some kind of small, maybe solo card games or something. Are you doing something like that, or are you doing like big games?
I go back and forth. I've got right now sitting up in my dining room, I've got Zaya out on the table, all spread out. If you don't know Zaya, it's a space exploration game where you're laying out tiles and doing discovery and running missions and things like that, running an in-game economy. Has an amazing solo campaign to it. So I'm currently on game 6 or something out of, I don't know how many, I think 10 in the solo campaign. But then there are some times where I just like to sit down and do a quick little Anirum or something like that on the table, or Friday, or those little card games.
Cool. What about you, John? What keeps you kind of coming back to it?
Well, the reason I fell in love with Magic the Gathering is I love mechanics. And I love playing in the little world that the designer gave me. I mean, Agricola with the drafting of the cards, and the game is different every time you play. It's just so fun, and I'm not fixated on winning. So I'm just there to see what happens if. Let me pull this little lever and see where it goes. I might crash and burn miserably, but some of the most fun I've ever had is trying something different in a game and failing, but it was still fun seeing where it went.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, and really, I love the recap after the game. Like, hey, remember that move when this happened? And the games that build those kind of moments are really awesome.
Another kind of follow-up question popped in my head as you were talking about the game mechanics then. And I'm really curious to see how you answer this, because you said how winning is not necessarily very important. Do you like to, if you get like a real good crunchy Euro game, do you like to just have that 1 or 2 time experience with a game, or are you the type that wants to like dive deep into the strategy of it? Because sometimes I get a sense like Euro gamers usually like to kind of dive deeper into strategies of games and play them multiple times.
Well, so I have 2 personalities living in me. One that really wants to explore a game to its fullest, and one that sees shiny objects everywhere he goes. So yes, Jeff and I have talked for years. Hey, let's instead of doing a 10 by 10, let's do a 1 by 100 and like really explore a game. And it just doesn't come to pass because new games come out so frequently. But yes, Jeff mentioned solo gaming, like Roads and Boats. I will set up a Roads and Boats puzzle, and it will sit on my table back there for weeks, and I will play it every other day, trying to get a better score and a better score and get more efficient with the game and see what happens. So I do. It's easier to do with games you can solo and play with.
To follow up on that. I'm in a similar boat. I do a 10 by 10 many years, and it specifically is to dive into a little bit more depth with some of these games. I just finished up playing Clinic 10 times, and it's one of those. It's a heavier game, but my 10 plays of that is done for this year, and I'm kind of disappointed because I left myself at a point where I haven't quite solved the thing that I'm working on. And yet I've got other games I've got to move on to. And so I'm trying to not let that pressure build up. But yeah, I'm the same way, John. I like to get in and, leave that puzzle set up and see what I can do with it.
Now, this question was not on, I did not send it to you in your questionnaire, but you got me now curious too about it. Since you brought up Roads and Boats, for anybody out there who doesn't know this game, it's in a very large box, and if I remember correctly, it is not a cheap game either. You got it there? Let's see how big this sucker is.
I can't even fit it on the screen.
Look how big, look how tall that is. And am I correct that it has no real reason for being that big?
No, it's hard to fit everything in there.
Yeah.
Is it because, how deep was it? How deep was it's very tall, but is it deep?
It's 2 inches.
Okay. Now, I've never played Roads and Boats, but I've seen pictures and stuff. If you're talking about game components and artwork, Roads and Boats is not at the top tier.
Yeah.
So, so my question then is, are cool components, how important is that to you guys? Not at all.
No.
Oh, are cool components neat? Yeah, but gameplay is way more important than cool components, and being a Splatter fan, so you have to deal with it. They don't even put artwork on the back of the box, so.
Yeah, to me, if the components, they're there, as long as they're not annoying, then that's fine. We were talking about, before the show started, we were talking about sidereal confluence. I mean, it really does become cubes on mats and things like that. And yet the gameplay, like it or not, I mean, it can be intriguing in spite of the components, maybe not because of the components.
I'm a nut for metal coins, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Metal coins are nice. If I have metal coins, I'm going to be sitting there playing with them, right? I'm going to be acting like they're poker chips, right?
Or good poker chips. That's the other
word.
Right.
Chips are nice.
Yeah.
As long as they're good quality ones. I mean, the cheap ones are whatever they are, but yeah, good ones. But if you have good quality poker chips, everybody's just sitting there clack, right, messing with them. So kind of moving on to one of my next questions here. What would you consider as a favorite game style or game mechanism? Good, John, you go first. What's if one of your favorite types of games, where if you heard this new game came out and it's this, you just want it.
If they say economic simulation, I'm there. I love anything that's an economic game. Auctions, action efficiency, multiple paths to victory is huge, because I love to play with mechanics. So, and I like mean games. Some people just don't have mean games in them, but I love a game that's ruthless.
Now, when you say mean games, more just that it's kind of maybe a cutthroat kind of system, or are you talking more it has to have combat in it?
No, so not mean between so much the players. The game itself is mean.
Oh,
and it's
punishing.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
The world we're in is so tight and so punishing that an error can really mess you over.
I feel one that always comes to my mind, which I haven't played, but I heard a ton about. I think it's an older one called In the Year of the Dragon. I think it is. It's another one where a lot of when I hear about it, people are they don't like it because it's punishing. If you mess up, you're like you're done, right? Like, so I don't know. I like a game that is. I feel like I like a game that has some little punishing aspects, but I don't want to have a simple slip up in a game and then I'm just like done for.
You learn lessons quickly.
That's true. That's true. You gotta learn from your mistakes.
I mean, I love the splatter phrase. If you can't lose on the first turn, why have a first turn?
Well, and that's so not to horn in on your thing, but that's actually what frustrated me initially about splatter games. You know, playing Food Chain Magnate the very first time, I messed up that first round terribly, and for the next 2.5 hours, I was sitting there trying to catch up with no catch-up mechanism, which now exists. So it's one of those things where sometimes you want at least a way to recover a little bit to make the rest of the experience fun. But you do learn fast, and you do learn how to. Okay, well, I just made a mistake, and now I know. So let that go into the next play of it.
Well, Jeff, since what would you say is like favorite game mechanism though? I mean, you say you like that, but is there a favorite game style or mechanism that you like particularly?
Yeah. So similar to John, I love economic simulations. I particularly love, and this might be similar to sort of that mean punishingness, but I particularly love closed economies and player-driven economies. That to me is just, it's fascinating to watch players interact. But you know, on the other side of things, I love worker placement. I love variable player powers. You know, because that gives replayability to things. And John's going to laugh at this, but I love pressure luck games. I'm terrible at them because I'm not a risky person in real life.
All right.
But when I know that there's no real life consequences and it's just a game on the line, I will press my luck all day long. So yeah, I love being able to sort of live that out a little bit in a way that I wouldn't when I'm making real decisions in real life.
If you had to pick like a favorite press your luck game, what's something that comes to mind?
Probably Deep Sea Adventure. Tiny little game, and I know a lot of people hate it, a lot of people love it, but to me, it's one of those games like, can I go just a little bit further? Can I go just a little bit deeper? Now I'm dead. So
Deep Sea Adventure, I anytime I get that out and I'm like, you know, someone there just doesn't know what it is, I usually always up saying the same thing. I say something like, this is like not a good game. Like it is, to me, it's almost like everything that gamers are going to grumble about. Like we're like, oh, it's roll and move. And like, it's just like, you know, whatever, garbage game mechanics. Man, is it fun though.
It is. It's super fun. And there actually are decent decisions to make. I mean, you've got to figure out, am I going to pick this up? Am I going to keep going? You know, it's for a tiny little box. I can play it with just about anybody and they will find something in it. Another pressure luck game. And John, you introduced me to this one, Port Royal. I love Port Royal. I'll play that one anytime.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one.
I still want to pick up a copy of Port Royal, but I want to find it got reprinted. I can't think of the company that reprinted it.
The Steve Jackson version?
I think, yeah. So I don't want that one.
Yeah.
Right.
I want was it Pegasus Spiel that did the old one?
You want the Pegasus Spiel version. Yeah.
Yes. I like that artwork on it, and so like that one's, I need to probably make a note of that to keep an eye out for that one. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a real good kind of it's just a deck of cards, but there's like, feels like there's some good kind of meat there to it, but not too much. Yeah, that's a good one.
And anybody can play it.
Exactly. I play that one with my kids. That's our Saturday morning game day. You know, we wake up at 7 a.m. and Mama's not up yet, so we play Port Royal.
Nice. Have you ever played Can't Stop?
Oh,
I have not played that one.
Saxon, love it.
What? Yeah. If you like Press Your Luck, you have to play Can't Stop at some point.
I've heard that a number of times.
Oh, it is. Oh. Do you at least know do you know what the game is?
Yeah.
I got some app version of it at some point on my phone, and I almost won in one turn. I was literally one single step away because I just kept pressing it. I was literally a single step away from a one-turn win, and then of course lost it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
It's such a good game.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's switch it up here because I want to keep the my question number 4 on your list. I think I like to keep that for last. Let's go to this. So, and I get curious about this with the difference between introverts and extroverts. I don't know why in the past couple of years I've been so fascinated by what introverts think, I guess.
We'll talk one of these days.
I mean, I'm always kind of curious about, and maybe this also stems from me like demoing games and trying to get people to come to the table and play. What's your like kind of feelings or thoughts on if you're sitting at a table and you kind of have an open spot and you see somebody say, I don't know, you're at the gaming cafe or some gaming event, right? And somebody you don't know walks in and like, do you invite them into your game? Are you comfortable with that? And then on the flip side, if you're walking in and there's a spot open at a table, are you willing to just jump into a game with people you don't know? Jeff, you're shaking your head no already on that one. It's like, what's your thoughts?
So yeah, we've actually I've met all kinds of great people just by inviting them to a game where into a group or a situation where I'm sort of already established, or where I already have relationships or they have a relationship with somebody else in the group. And so if somebody's coming over and they're actually interested in the game, absolutely, I'll play a game with anybody like that. Now, on the flip side, I absolutely am totally out of my element when I'm walking into a room of complete strangers and while I'm looking for a seat, I'm just going to go hang in the corner and play my solo game. So no, it's one of those where often if I'm there with at least one other person, I'll have no problem joining a group together. But I feel like, I said before that I'm not a shy introvert, but I'm not. I wouldn't call myself an outgoing introvert either.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but absolutely, if there's somebody who's interested in a game, I will absolutely 100% love to play the game with that person.
So you're kind of saying like you're sitting there at the table, you got the spot open, and then they're walking by and go, "Oh, hey, can I join your game? Because I've been wanting to play that game."
Yep, absolutely.
Now, what if they're walking by, they're obvious, they're not there with anybody, and they're not showing any per se interest? Are you going to be like, "Hey, you, come join our game"? No,
probably not. Probably not.
Okay,
that would require me actually drawing attention to myself so that I could get their attention. So, no.
How about you, John?
Yeah, I will stop somebody, especially if like it's a game that plays better with 3 and there's only 2 of us sitting there. I'll be like, "Hey, you want to come sit down?" I love the experience of meeting new people, and it's a flip of a coin because you can really get some people you would rather not ever play another game with. But you live and learn, and I don't like to let that spoil having new people. I mean, one of Jeff and I's great buddies, a guy I love to death, he posted on Facebook one day like, "Hey, I just moved to the area and I'm looking for people to game with." And I was like, "Hey, we game at the local store on Tuesday nights. Come join us." And he came and played with us one night, and we've been friends ever since. Cool. That's awesome.
So no, that's actually different because he was actually posting to say, "Hey, I'm looking for something." So yeah, absolutely. At that point, come join us.
But it is a strange, like we didn't know him anything about him.
Right.
And I'm okay with going up and making, like saying, "Hey, I've always wanted to try that. You got spot?" That's not because I'm an outgoing introvert, so that's okay.
Well, this is where those signs at conventions, looking for players or something like that, those are helpful because at that point, then that's almost like an invitation. Come and join us. So.
Cool. Let's switch it up with something a little bit different. Let's talk some rules. how do you guys prefer to learn a game? Do you want to read the rules yourself? Do you want to watch a video? Do you want someone else to teach you the game? What's your preferred choice? Jeff, we'll start with you.
Sure. I'm good with all three of those. If I'm going to be teaching a game, and it's one that I'm not completely familiar with, what I'll probably do is watch a video to see how they teach it, and then either learn from their mistakes or sort of follow a similar kind of flow. But then once I watch that video, we've got so many high quality instructional videos these days, or playthroughs and things like that. That's a really easy way to do it, especially when I'm trying to teach my kids or something like that. They like to watch those things. But then I'll definitely go through the rules because I've been bitten. They'll forget some little thing. It's like, oh, hey, that actually came up in our game and I didn't know what was going on. So right. I'll watch a video, read the rules, that sort of thing.
How about you, John? What's your preference?
I like reading rule books. I have one sitting on my desk right there that I've been slowly working my way through for Heroes of Blackreach. But if I'm teaching a group and I'm not super familiar with the game, I love putting on my iPad and just putting like a watch it played video, because some of these people that do them professionally, they just make it easy, and I can focus more on getting the game set up and interacting with the people that I'm playing with instead of being focused on making sure I get everything right. It's a good tool. It's lazy, but
it's not bad. I think I've done that a couple times. I'm usually the type of person, once I'm teaching a lot of games, and I usually like to have it all down pat. But I've done that a couple times. Just like, well, let's just pull up the video. I'll tell you one, and let's see. I want to hear your preference on it too. Actually, I've been a couple times where someone's like, "Oh, hey, I got this game," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've been wanting to play that one. All right, how's the play?" And then he's like, "Page 1." And like he's just gonna literally read it from the rule book, and I'm like automatically, I'm like, nope, I don't want to do this. Like,
what if you're at a convention though, like, and you just picked up something new? Are you open to learning the rules right there?
Nope. I kind of have this, like, I get the sense of like, when we're there to do some gaming, I only have X amount of time to be with that group, or, whatever. I only have so much time at a convention to be enjoying myself. And I do not want to be like wasting time going page by page through a rule book. I would rather it be like, look, if we're going to go into an open gaming area, let's say at PAX Unplugged, I'm grabbing a game I know how to teach, or someone else better know how to teach the game. Like, but I know I see tons and tons of people that are just going to sit there and flip, and read the rules.
Yeah, new releases get me every time. I'm like, I want to crack this baby open.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of years ago at Gen Con, the year Anachrony came out, it was like midnight. We got Anachrony and said, let's try and learn this at midnight. That didn't go over well.
Oh, man.
Well, it very much depends on how excited you are about playing the game. Like at PAX Unplugged, we played Magnastorm. We picked it up. Right. It looked like a really cool game. We unwrapped it, punched it, read the rules right there. But we were both invested in playing the game and learning it. It looked like an exciting and interesting game. So plus it helps that the rules weren't that difficult to get to. If it's a 50-page rule book, if it's leaving Earth or something like that, then no. But if it's Ride the Rails or Irish Gauge and it's a page front and back or something like that, yeah, go for it.
That's true. I guess that's a good caveat to make, because if it's something you can get through it in just a couple minutes, like, oh, okay, you could flip through that easily. But yeah, if it has staples in the rule book, no. Like maybe that's my drawing line right there. Like I think that's the defining line. Does the rule book have staples in it? Then don't teach me right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I like to save my one question here towards the end of it. I think I got through a bunch of my other stuff. And I always start this question off with saying, I want you to give me 3 of your favorite games, but they do not have to be like a top 3. because there's just no way I feel like at this point in my life I could pick my literal top 3 games, right? So I always like to think this maybe inside your top 20, top 30, but like 3 favorite games that you want to talk about. And we'll have John start on this one. Give us one of yours and we'll go back and forth.
Well, I did do my top 3. Sorry.
Oh no! If you can do that, then definitely more power to you. But
so coming in at number 3, a little game from Taiwan, Mini Rails. 3 best at 4 and 5 players, but it's a crazy simple rule set. But boy, does this game have depth, and it's punishing. There is so much depth, and the games are so different depending on the group you play with. Oh, it's fun. And it's fun watching people get it. Like the first time they play, it's frustrating. The next time they play, the light bulb goes off and they're like, oh, I see how that works. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I see how it works and I like it.
Yes, and I'm coming back for more.
Yeah.
Who makes this one?
It's no idea.
Taiwan board game, I think it is.
Oh, hey, I'm checking as you're talking here, so I'm pulling up Board Game Geek. There's a new edition coming from Tasty Minstrel, or maybe it already came out.
Came out,
yeah. They reprinted it.
I feel like I've heard of it, but I have not seen it yet. I mean, it's got like what? It's got individual player boards and a center board. So is it really small? Is it tiny? I mean, it says Mini Rails.
Tiny, but
oh, look at that! You got it right there.
Yeah.
Where's it at?
Where is it? It was here.
You should have it there. They're not.
Oh, here it is. We were just playing it the other day, so I haven't.
Oh,
okay. So it is. It is a smaller box. Okay.
Yep.
It is. You get every round of the game. You must take 2 actions, and you get to do each action once, which is great. So you either lay rails or buy shares, and the order at which you choose to do those actions on your first or second turn is really critical. And turn order is an amazing process in the game. And really turn order is buying for turn order is a great spot. And do you want to be in the middle of the pack where you get to do 2 actions real close together? Do you want to fight for the front of the pack? And it's just, it's so fun and so simple. But it is not for the faint of heart because you can get your feelings hurt.
Yes.
Really?
Not like it's not a take that game, but everybody's trying to win.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And it's very obvious if somebody's trying to win, they're trying to make you lose.
All right, I'm going to have to add that one to the list. Cool. All right. I guess that's not something I was expecting for a top 3. Looking at it, that's interesting. Okay. All right. What's Jeff's number 3 on this?
So, yeah, 1 and 2 were like, yep, I got those.
Okay.
3, there are probably 5 or 6 different games that could go there. Right now, at number 3 is PAX Premier 2nd Edition. So closed economy, tableau building. It's got super unique gameplay. It's got a great solo mode, actually. So it checks all my boxes there. Doesn't have a whole lot of pressure luck, but it kind of does because you never quite know when the things that are going to trigger the end game are going to come out. So how far can you push what you want to do?
Did you say, I'm looking at the different editions here on Board Game Geek. So I have heard polar opposites opinions of PAX Premier. Like I've heard people just go on about the interesting aspects of it. And then other people that are like, that is the most boring game I've ever played in my life.
So PAX Premier for me, first time I played it, I was like, this game went on way too long for what it is. I was playing it at the Game Table Cafe. And for me, that's about a 40, 45 minute drive, depending on traffic. The whole time driving home, I kept thinking about it.
Hmm.
What if I did this? What if this happened? Well, what about this? What about that? I got home and I could not stop thinking about it. And that to me is the sign of an engaging game.
Wow.
I was invested and I didn't even realize it. So I got home and I started thinking about it, and I immediately wanted to play it again. So that was the point where it was like, okay, wait a second, there's something here. I went and I got myself a copy before it went out of print. With it just was on Kickstarter a little while ago, so they'll be coming back in print now. But it's one of those games that just, there was something there that was just magical to me that kept my brain going even after we weren't playing.
Is this the one that has, is this the one that has like the board is like, is it cloth or something?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. It's not like any other game you've probably played before. So it did some really great stuff for me. So that for me is at number 3 right now.
Well, I mean, that's good for me to hear, because I feel like I've heard more on the grumbling side of it. So I feel like I need to hear the other side and actually play it sometime myself. You know, of course, make my own opinion of it. Because
I'll play it with anybody anytime.
I look at a picture of it and I'm like, well, that's all it is. You know, it's some cards, some interesting kind of little tokens and stuff. But I mean, you could do a lot with a deck of cards. So
yep. It's the mechanics. It's what you do with those cards and how you interact with the other players over those cards and over the board state. Again, like I was talking about, at the beginning of everything, it's that shared attention space, and what they do with that shared attention space is not like any other game I think that I've played.
That one over. All right. Making like my own little shopping list over here now. Let's go back to John. Let's hear number 2.
Number 2, a classic that is a classic that I hadn't got into for when it first came out, and I had no like at all for really, or an affinity to train games until really the end of 2018. I started really getting this itch to start learning about train games. But Age of Steam has stolen my heart. I love all the maps. It is so fun, and there is so much to do, and every dollar counts, which I love. I mean, I love the fact that if you have money at the end of your turn, you've probably wasted something. And of course, not having money or owing money at the end of your turn is very bad. But Age of Steam is just so fun. And there's, with these simple, I mean, again, it's a super simple rule set, but there is so much going on, and the player interaction is fantastic.
Have you go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, if it hadn't been PAX Premier, it would have been Age of Steam for me at number 3.
Oh, okay. Now, have you played Steam?
Yes.
As well? And then, because I always feel like I always hear 3 kind of lumped together in there. You got Steam, Age of Steam, and then Railways of the World.
So I have not played Railways of the World. My first real train game was Brass in 2018, and I played Brass, the Lancashire, but before it was reprinted by Roxley.
Right.
And then traded for a copy of Birmingham.
So you played the not pretty version.
Correct. And I said, wow, and I played Brass Lancashire on the special 2-player map that was released. And I was like, wow, there's really some stuff here. And I started liking train games. And I figured, because I like economic simulations, it was just the whole train thing that I wasn't into.
Right.
But now I'm into the train thing.
Hopefully I'm not maybe jumping on a number 1 for you, but then I feel like, have you played any of the 18XX series?
Not yet. Besides 18 Lilliput, which is not really 18XX, it has some 18XX stuff. And I've played City of the Big Shoulders, which is not trains, but it has a lot of 18XX in a company management type game. But I'm looking forward to, I've got 1846 in the basement and 1830. So just wait for the right group of people to play with, because you don't want to play with people. You might want to play with people who know it a little bit, but you don't want to play with people who play it a lot, because it will be a very boring game for you.
I've not played an 18xx game, but I feel like I see it and then I get scared away. Like, I don't know if I want to be involved in that world. And usually too, I'm more of I like my components to look good. And I always feel like 18x games don't really necessarily lean towards that. Maybe that's just my overarching opinion.
The new age of Steam is beautiful.
Yeah.
Did it just get reprinted?
It did. By Eagle Griffin and Ian O'Toole artwork, and it's just fantastic.
Really?
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
With little mini poker chips.
And if you pay extra, little mini wooden trains.
Well, of course. Eagle Griffin, in my mind, in the past couple of years, have really taken up their game to a whole new level of awesome components.
And boxes that can be used as body armor.
I tell you what, they're usually, when I get a game and I take it out of shrink, open it up, and I'm like, oh, look at all these bits. Oh, look at this insert. Trash. So Eagle Griffin, though, their inserts, I think I've kept almost every one of them so far.
If I have one complaint about the deluxe edition of Age of Steam, it's the part of the insert is not the best. Most of it's really good, but that's the one place where I think they probably could have done a better job. But other than that, the game is just gorgeous and beautiful to play.
I'm gonna have to look at the new edition.
You got me into that one.
I did. I caused you to spend that money.
Yes, you did.
Nice. All right, Jeff, what's your number 2 on the list then?
Number 2, Cosmic Encounter. Nothing comes close
Awesome.
to how that game, just the crazy interactions, and no matter what you do in that game, it's going to change the next time you play. To me, it's the epitome. Again, I guess it'll keep coming back to this. It's the epitome of that shared interactive space where you're constructing sort of this domain at the table, and everybody's in there sort of creating it, and it's just a beautiful experience to me.
I don't know if it says it's a good thing about a game or not, but I think it's interesting that the game can be over and someone never got a turn.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably not a good thing about a game, but
they may never have gotten a turn, but they could still have participated.
Right.
And that's the cool thing about Cosmic Encounters. But if you're playing particularly at a larger player count, I mean, that could be the case. But it's you're potentially engaged, even if you're trying to keep somebody else negotiating, so that somebody else doesn't do something to somebody else. I mean, there's just so much amazing interaction with Cosmic Encounter. It was one of the earliest games I played in sort of my modern board gaming life, and it has that staying power for me. I don't get it to the table enough, but because you got to have the right group of people. That's one of those games. Generally, the people I play it with that I introduce to it like it, but I've had a couple people who never want to play that game again.
Right.
Because it's not a deterministic, strategic kind of game. You can't math it out.
Yeah, I mean, they literally just the right or wrong personality of a person completely changes the game.
Yeah.
One of my favorite times with it, and I'm trying to rack my brain to try to think of the alien race. Is it the Filth?
The Filch?
Filch. Yeah, Filch. And I can't remember if it's them or not. So like when Fantasy Flight like reprinted it and had the man, it's been a while since I played the faction of like their power cards, right? The one ability, if you are that race and have that card, it tells you as long as you have that card in your hand, you can cheat.
Yes.
And so that's
like steal stuff as long as you don't get caught.
Right. Like, so as long as you have this card, you can either take your ships out of the void, like take your ships back, which I always thought like you're going to get caught doing that. The other one was you could like take as many cards as you want from the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that. I'm like, wow, like, are seriously like I could cheat? So the whole time I would be like, oh, you like, let me help you or whatever, so I could get some cards. And then no one else is paying attention. And I'm taking, instead of taking 3 cards, I'm taking literally like 8 cards at a time. Of course,
my favorite. Yeah.
I end up winning, and everybody was like, they're like, oh, like that was so much fun. And I was like, it was, wasn't it? Because I was cheating the whole time. And they're like, what? What do you mean you're cheating?
I'm the Filch.
Right.
Yep. Some of my favorite games of Cosmic Encounter, somebody's been playing the Filch, and if you can play the Filch well, it's beautiful. It's just amazing. I love that game so much.
I gotta get it. Yeah, I haven't played it for. I feel like it's been a couple of years since I got mine to the table. Yeah, that's a good one. Too many games, not enough time.
Yeah.
Until we retire.
Yes, I still like the idea. I've heard someone say it years ago that like some board gamers need to get together and kind of like open a board gamer retirement home.
The villages for board gamers.
There you go.
We'll just have like a whole commune and everything. Everybody works together, so we go play games.
Nice.
All right, John, what is number 1 then?
So Jeff, you know for a very long time that Glory to Rome was my number 1, and it's dropped. It's not even top 3 anymore. Still love it. Still love Glory to Rome. But I played this game for the first time at the Treehouse.
Okay.
With Scott Marks, taught it to me, and I was like, man, this ugly box made me overlook this game that I am absolutely in love with, and that is Concordia.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think Concordia mechanically is the most perfect game I've ever played. I would say everything about it is perfect, but the way the mechanics interact are elegant. I love having to really be super efficient. And
I was looking where my copy was.
You have I have the newer box.
All right, everybody can see me like roll over here for a second.
Bet you weren't expecting that.
Well, Concordia was another candidate for my number 3. And Scott Marks at the Treehouse, I think, taught me. Was I in that game? Was that your first game?
Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
Before we played the Gallerist, when you got to it. Yeah, you have the old ugly color.
Now, all right, so I feel like this is one that I defend a little bit. This is not the most beautiful cover, but everybody says how ugly it is. And I'm like, I mean, it's all right.
Right.
I mean, I guess her face is a little creepy smile there, right?
Yeah,
like,
but
has it got the new one?
It's not a game that's going to jump off the shelf.
But wait a minute, that's the Venus cover,
that's
though,
the
right?
Venus
That's
one,
Venus
yeah.
cover, right? Of course, I have the Concordia Salsa back there too, and it's kind of like a boring cover.
But the salsa mechanic is imperative.
Oh, yeah. So you say how you passed it by constantly, right? Because of the cover,
right?
I was. Let's see. I think I was at Origins, and I'm trying to think how many years ago it was. I was at like one of the booths there where it's just a vendor selling games. Like, it's not a publisher, right? It's just a vendor there. And I'm standing there buying something else, and somebody walks by, and it must have been a Rio Grande person. And he says to the guy working there that owns the booth or whatever, and he makes some comment to say like, hey, the one expansion, it's like going out of print. Like he's telling this guy like, hey, it's going out of print. We're not sure if we're reprinting it, blah, blah, blah. So right then on the spot, I'm standing right there in front of him, and the guy turns around and he starts like up pricing the game. And so I'm like, can I get a copy of that? Like at the cheaper price? Cause I'm like standing right there hearing all of this. And he's like, yeah, you heard what's going on. So I got, and it might've been Salsa even. And so I picked it up, and then I was like, all right, well now I need the base game. And then I got the Stonemeyer like component upgrade, and like I upgraded all the components. So I had like multiple expansions, base game, all these components, and then at that point in time, I still haven't played it.
You have not played it yet?
At that point,
okay.
Finally, like I've had literally this like boxes of stuff for so long, and then finally I was like, I should probably play this. It's man, Concordia is amazing. The game is so awesome. Definitely, I can see why it's number one on your list. I think some people might like gripe though that Glory of the Rome got bumped down off of that though.
Yeah, Glory of the Rome's a bit swingy. Concordia is not. Concordia is deterministic, and you got to play your best game or you're not going to win.
Right. Well, that's an interesting mix. You got mini rails, Age of Steam, Concordia. So train games, so like route connections.
Route connections are all of them have route building.
Yeah.
All right, Jeff, what do you have for a number one? Pax Premier to Cosmic Encounter is kind of a polar opposites, I feel, right?
Yeah. A little bit. There's some good player interaction potentials there, and inadvertent negotiation with Pax Premier. But since John brought up Glory to Rome, my number one is actually Import Export, which is basically Glory to Rome, but redone in a way that's in print and you can actually get it. Plus, there are every card in there that has powers that change the game are unique. So every card in there is different. You're not going to find multiple copies of the Vomitorium or something like that. So yeah, it's Import Exports is one of my favorite games. It has that same feel to me as Glory to Rome, but it one is in print and you can get it. There's another Kickstarter for a deluxe edition that should be delivering this summer sometime. But it's got that there isn't direct player interaction as far as negotiations and stuff like that goes, but you can follow what other people are doing. So you're always engaged in the game. You're always being able to participate in the game. There isn't a whole lot of downtime. All the advantages that you get with Glory to Rome in a way that changes up some of the mechanics a little bit, but it's very much the spiritual successor of Glory to Rome. And to me, I think this might be blasphemy, but I think it actually improves on Glory to Rome a little bit.
Is that like, I'm looking at pictures of it, and is it like a tiny little box? Is that what's the top shelf? Oh, that's what top shelf there. Okay.
This is it. This is it right here. So, yeah.
I'm sorry. Import Export, that just right away, I'm just like, you couldn't come up with a better name.
It sounds like the most boring game in the world. Yeah. Yep. No, but
awesome.
It is so fun. It is so fun. I will sit down and play game after game after game with this back to back. In fact, John, I think we did that at Origins a couple years ago.
We did.
How long? Well, and it can go small little box like that in 45 to 90 minutes, it says. Yeah. Does that seem accurate?
Yeah, it does.
Or faster.
Yeah, it can go faster if people know what they're doing.
Huh.
Especially if you're doing 2-player at 45 minutes would be a long game where you're just, cutthroat kind of stuff. But yeah, we played over breakfast one time when we were coming home from Origins.
We did.
Yeah.
Huh. It's kind of got like a minimalist art style, more like a graphic design.
Yeah. When we were talking about, Jordan Draper's amazing at both designing the components and the game mechanics itself, or the game rule sets. But before, when we were talking about components and whether or not they matter before, this is the game I was thinking of when I said it doesn't really matter. I mean, it really is minimalist, but the gameplay is just amazing.
Well, looks like it's got little plastic ships in it, though, right?
Yep.
I mean, that makes it a little bit better.
Well, those were little extras, and I actually don't like to play with the little ships. I prefer the cards that represent the ships. But let me see if I can dig them out. But it does have. Let me get one you can actually see a little better.
Well, do the
little boats? But
so, what's the reason though for not liking to use them?
I feel it's easier to organize so you're loading containers onto your boats, and the containers are actually cards. So you're actually putting these under the boat as you're shipping them, and I feel like it's easier to sort of manage that if the boat is the same size as the card as you're laying it out. Otherwise, you just have this little thing that's kind of sitting there with cards kind of wiggling around.
So are you not putting like the little like container pieces onto the ship then?
In the new edition, you do. In the new deluxe edition that's coming out, you have the money is are these little credits like this. In the new edition, the money is actually little containers, and you are loading them onto the boats as you're doing things.
Right away, the thing that pops in my head too, when I'm seeing like pictures of this, have you ever played the game Container?
Yeah.
Have you? I have not played it, but I was like, when Container got its like new Kickstarter edition and everything, and I saw the components and the price tag, I was like, yeah. That one was kind of like, seemed a little overkill for it.
Yeah.
Is it, so how's that game compared to Import Export Container?
A lot of people call Import Export Container meets Glory to Rome, but to me, the mechanics of Container and Import Export are very different. There's a little bit of auctioning. I mean, well, there's a lot of auctioning in here, but it works differently. You don't have the same kind of economy that you do in Container. Now, I've only played Container once. That was at John. We played it one time, maybe a year or so ago. But to me, they're very different. They're very different games. This is much more towards Glory to Rome than it is Container.
Okay.
Other than the fact that you're loading containers onto a boat.
Well, I mean, obviously that's the first thing that popped my mind then for it. All right, make sure I don't lose my place on Import Export here. I want to keep myself a little list of stuff I feel like I want to check out then.
This is another one I will play with anybody anytime.
Yes, you will.
Is it easy to learn?
Yeah.
It's not hard to learn. There's a bit to keep straight, but once you start playing it, it all fits together. Everything's right there on the cards that you need to do. Really, it's more a matter of figuring out how to get where you want to go in the game.
Cool. Well, I wasn't sure what I was going to expect. I guess knowing a little bit of you guys, I expected something Euro and crunchy-ish. So I feel like you said something before. You guys are part of a weekly group, right?
When we can be.
Well,
yeah.
Before
actually,
this,
a number of groups.
Yeah.
You're from the one group of guys. You've like been doing like said the 10 by 10 or whatever. Like I feel like I heard you're doing a bunch of kind of good crunchy games though.
So there's a group of us that would meet at the Game Table Cafe actually, and we were doing it wasn't a 10 by 10, but there were 5 of us in the group, and we each chose 5 games that we wanted to play over the year, 5 times each. So basically it'd be 25 plays. So assuming we would get together every 2 weeks. So we were picking things like Root, Endeavor. What else did we choose? I forget because it's been now a few months since we've actually been able to actually play. But yeah, they were on those. You know, they weren't lighter games, but I wouldn't say that they were necessarily big, heavy, crunchy economic kind of games either. Enough to be engaging, but also enough to be able to do that socialization.
Cool. Well, I think that's about all the stuff that I had on my list for questions, and we're running maybe a slightly bit longer than I thought, but that's all right. I've been saying in my past interviews that I like to take this time to not only be talking about board games, but I want to I know you two guys, but I don't really know you guys, right? And I try to use this as a little time to get to know people a little bit more and learn a little bit about them. So it's been fun. I hope you guys had a good time.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Victor. Really appreciate this. This is fun.
Any last things that you guys want to shout out or plug or anything? Or not?
Looking forward to going to the Game Table Cafe,
Yeah.
playing a game, and having a Scoville.
Scoville, yep.
You could always have a Scoville while playing Scoville.
Good. I've never done that, but the Scoville, it is my number one sandwich.
So Scoville was my number one sandwich until I discovered the Seven Wonders. I don't know what it is, but that one has won me over.
Nice.
Yeah. So I would say if you can at this point, buy memberships, buy gift certificates, things like that. Keep the Game Table Cafe going. They're doing a great job building a community here with all the stuff they're doing online, the various videos, the Discord chats, the games that they're running. What's that game with the woods, the forest kind of thing that they're doing? Anyway, Game Table Cafe is doing an amazing job building this community and kind of creating a place where people can get together during this time. So I love seeing what's going on there. So thanks so much.
Yeah, I feel like I wish I had more time and the right time. As of this moment, right now, as we're recording, I see Zularetto, I think is going to be played tomorrow. There we go. I was waiting for the voice of Bill to come through our speakers on our side. And of course, tomorrow at 2:00, and I have already other plans for that time. So darn. But yeah, thanks a lot, guys, for spending an hour here with me and picking your brain a little bit. It was great talking with you guys. But I think we're going to call it a night. So if you watched to the end of the video, hey, thank you so much. And looking forward to getting to the cafe and playing some games. So yes, thank you, voice of Bill in my ear. Like, subscribe on the Game Table Cafe's YouTube channel. Get on their Discord channel there because there's always a lot of chatter going on there. So all with that, everybody have a good night. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Bye.